All right, so we're diving into Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life today.
Yeah, really getting into it.
I think this one's going to resonate with you listeners out there on the self-improvement journey, searching for that deeper meaning.
Absolutely.
Peterson's a clinical psychologist, so he really gets into some deep stuff about the human condition, ties in biology, philosophy, even religion.
Yeah, he's not afraid to tackle the big questions.
No, he's not. And right away, he throws out this idea of chaos and order as these fundamental forces in our lives.
Interesting.
Like, he uses this analogy of a kid's playroom to kind of explain how our perception of order and chaos actually shapes our reality.
Yeah, I like that.
And then, and this is where it gets kind of wild, he brings up lobsters.
Lobsters, really?
And lobsters. He talks about dominance hierarchies in lobsters and how they're surprisingly similar to what we see in human society.
Wow, yeah, that's...
Blew my mind a little bit.
That's a fascinating connection. It really gets you thinking.
It does. So what are your thoughts on that connection between, like, lobster behavior and humans?
Well, it's a compelling analogy.
Yeah.
It makes you think about those deeper roots of, like, how we act. Human behavior.
Right.
Like lobsters and humans, we actually share a common ancestor way back when.
Oh, wow.
And brain chemicals behind dominance, especially serotonin.
Okay.
It's super similar in both species.
Interesting.
So when Peterson's talking about these lobsters battling it out for status, it makes you wonder, like, how much of that primal drive is still in us?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's where I think it gets really interesting for someone like you who's, into self-improvement and all that.
Right.
Because understanding that biological side doesn't mean we're trapped by it.
Right.
Instead, it's like it gives us this whole new way of looking at, like, how to handle those social dynamics, in a more conscious way.
Okay, so it's like knowing the rules of the game lets you play it better, kind of?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
But he doesn't stop at lobsters.
No, he doesn't.
He goes on to talk about how this ancient lobster-like part of our brain, it also affects how we see the world, how we put everything into categories.
He says that, like, the way we understand the objective world, it's all tied up with our social brains, which have been shaped by, millions of years of evolution.
Wow.
So it makes you wonder, like, how much of what we think is truth is really just, like, us projecting our social needs and anxieties and things.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And then he uses the biblical story of Adam and Eve to illustrate this point.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not about, like, endorsing any specific religion or anything.
Right.
He's just pointing out how we as humans, we tend to use categories like male and female to represent order and chaos, especially when we're trying to understand something we don't know.
Okay.
Think about it. Adam and Eve, the Garden of Eden, that serpent.
Yeah.
These are, like, powerful symbols, right? They get to our deepest fears and desires. Yeah.
And Peterson's suggesting that these old stories, they're actually reflecting something deep about, like, the human psyche, about our need to make sense of the world, but through the lens of our social experiences.
I see. Yeah.
So next time you're feeling overwhelmed by the chaos of life, remember that your perception, it might be influenced by those ingrained patterns of thinking.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that you have the power to choose how you react to those primal urges.
Right. So we're not just mindless lobsters.
We're not.
We have the ability to step back and look at those patterns.
Exactly.
Speaking of examining things closely, Peterson gets pretty serious when he talks about truth-telling.
He does.
Especially in Rule 8.
Right.
He tells this powerful story about a woman he met, a schizophrenic woman, who truly believed she had caused the Holocaust.
That's heavy.
It is, and it really highlights that burden, that weight of seeing and speaking the truth.
And I think for someone like you who's all about self-improvement, that idea of confronting reality, even when it's tough, that's crucial.
Totally.
Because how can you grow if you're not willing to be honest with yourself about where you are and what needs to change?
Yeah. That really hits home.
Yeah.
But then he goes even deeper. He talks about these life lies we tell ourselves.
The self-deception.
Yeah, those self-deceptions that actually hold us back. And I think we can all relate to that on some level.
Oh, absolutely.
We've all told ourselves those little lies to avoid facing the hard stuff, haven't we?
For sure.
So Peterson draws on the work of Alfred Adler here.
Right.
Who talked about how these life lies.
Yeah.
They might seem harmless at first.
Yeah, you think so.
But they can cause all sorts of problems.
They do.
They create these inconsistencies in our beliefs and actions, and they can even be used to justify, harmful stuff.
It's true.
Think about it. Procrastination.
Oh, yeah.
Staying in a job you hate. Clinging to relationships that aren't good for you.
All of it.
All of that can come from those deeper, unexamined lies we tell ourselves.
Yeah, it's deep.
So for you, on your journey of self-discovery, that first step is recognizing those patterns.
Right.
And being willing to challenge them.
Yeah, it's tough.
It is.
It's about asking those hard questions. Like, why am I really doing this? What am I so afraid of facing?
Ooh, those are tough.
It's not always fun, but that's where real growth happens.
So facing those uncomfortable truths, being honest with ourselves.
Totally.
Those are like the crucial first steps.
Right.
But then what? Where do we go from there?
Peterson seems to suggest that embracing sacrifice
interesting.
is a key part of personal growth and finding meaning.
He uses the story of, Christ's temptation in the desert to illustrate this idea.
Yeah, it's about choosing the harder path, the one that demands, discipline and sacrifice, even when it means giving up that instant gratification.
Makes me think of that whole idea of delayed gratification.
Which is, huge in the self-improvement world.
It is.
It's about realizing that, real fulfillment comes from aligning your actions with your values.
Yeah.
Even when it's freaking hard.
So true.
Think about the goals you set for yourself.
Okay.
Your desire to find deeper meaning, all that. Are you actually willing to make those sacrifices to reach those goals?
Yeah.
To say no to all the distractions and temptations that pull you away from your purpose?
Ooh, that is powerful. That's a powerful question.
It is.
It's like we have to be willing to give up something to get something even better. It reminds me of Peterson's advice to aim at paradise.
Love that one.
While also concentrating on today.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
I love that. I love that phrase.
It's finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
Between working towards a better future.
Right.
And actually being present in this moment.
Totally.
And he uses this great analogy from Pinocchio.
Pinocchio, okay.
Geppetto wishing on a star. He's got this grand ambition, but he's also, working hard in the present to make that wish come true.
So it's not about just dreaming big.
No.
It's about taking those actual steps, even the small ones.
Right.
And Peterson gives us some really practical guidance on how to do that.
He does.
He talks about comparing yourself to who you were yesterday.
Yes.
Not to other people.
No, important.
Right. Setting small, achievable goals and celebrating those wins along the way.
He also talks about the power of compounding.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
But in the context of, personal development.
Right. Not just finances.
Exactly.
So those small, consistent efforts, they can actually lead to massive change over time.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is. It's powerful stuff.
And it's not just some vague motivational thing.
No.
It's grounded in how we work as humans, the power of habits, all that.
So for someone like you who's actively working on self-improvement, that's a really powerful tool to have.
Powerful stuff.
This is all resonating with me big time.
Yeah, good.
I feel like we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
But we're just getting started, right?
Oh, yeah, we're just scratching the surface.
There's so much more to unpack in 12 Rules for Life.
Tons more.
I'm excited to keep going.
Me too. So we've been talking about these deep-seated patterns in our brains,
Yeah.
This ancient wiring that we share with lobsters. Pretty wild to think about, huh?
It is. It really is.
Makes you wonder how much of our behavior is driven by these primal instincts, especially when it comes to competition and social status.
Yeah. If we're so similar to lobsters in that way, does that mean we're just destined to be stuck in these dominance hierarchies?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
But Peterson doesn't think we're just slaves to our biology.
Okay.
He actually sees our capacity for self-awareness and moral reasoning as a way to transcend those primal urges.
Okay.
It's not easy, of course. It takes conscious effort, but that's where the real work of self-improvement comes in. Yeah. It's about understanding those instincts and then, making choices that align with a higher purpose.
So it's not about denying those urges?
No, not at all.
It's about channeling them in a more constructive way.
Exactly. And that's where Peterson's idea of finding meaning comes in.
Right.
It's not just about winning the dominance game.
Okay.
It's about finding something worth striving for, something that gives your life purpose and direction.
He talks about aiming at paradise, right?
Yeah, such a powerful image.
It is.
It's about having that guiding vision, that North Star that helps you navigate through all the complexities of life and make choices that are in line with your deepest values.
But it's not just about, like, daydreaming about some perfect future, right?
No, definitely not.
He's also very clear about the importance of taking action,
yes,
of concentrating on today.
Absolutely. Peterson really stresses that it's not enough to have a grand vision.
Right.
You got to put in the work day in and day out.
Yeah.
He's a big believer in taking small steps.
Okay.
Making little improvements that will eventually get you closer to your goals.
I like that.
You know, it's that classic idea of a journey of 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
Beginning with a single step. But in this case, it's the journey towards a more meaningful life.
Right.
That starts with a single conscious choice.
And those choices, a lot of times they involve saying no to things.
Oh, for sure.
Right. Resisting temptations, delaying gratification, all that.
Exactly. Peter talks a lot about the importance of sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Choosing the harder path, the one that demands discipline and self-control.
Right.
It's like that image of Christ rejecting, worldly power in the desert.
Okay.
It's about choosing meaning over expediency.
I see.
Even when it's tough. And this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Peterson connects this idea of sacrifice to the very nature of truth.
Oh, interesting.
He argues that speaking the truth,
okay,
living in accordance with reality, often requires us to give something up. Comfort, social approval, maybe even our own ego.
So you're saying those little white lies we tell ourselves, those attempts to avoid, uncomfortable realities were actually a form of taking the easy way out.
It's a provocative thought, right?
Yeah.
Peterson seems to suggest that those life lies, those attempts to manipulate reality to our liking,
right,
they're actually signs of weakness, like a fear of confronting the truth.
So it's about having the courage to face reality.
Yes.
Even when it's unpleasant.
Exactly.
But that takes a certain kind of strength, a willingness to be uncomfortable.
It does.
To step outside of our comfort zones.
And Peterson argues that building that strength, that moral backbone, that's essential for creating a meaningful life.
Okay.
It's about becoming someone you can rely on.
Right.
Someone who acts in accordance with their values, even when it's hard.
I like that.
Someone who's committed to truth-telling to themselves and to others.
Yeah. Okay, I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Okay.
But how do we actually put this into practice,
Right.
Peterson throws a lot of ideas at us.
He does.
But how do we translate those into real-world actions?
That's the key, isn't it? One of the things Peterson emphasizes is the importance of setting small, achievable goals.
Oh, okay.
It's about focusing on those little improvements.
Yeah.
Those daily practices that will, slowly but surely move you in the right direction.
I like that.
And he even gets into some very specific advice.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, like standing up straight with your shoulders back.
Okay.
Making your bed.
Yeah.
Cleaning your room.
Oh, those things, really?
Yes, those might seem like trivial things.
Yeah.
But they're actually symbolic of a deeper principle.
Okay.
Taking responsibility for your own life, for your little corner of the world.
Right. So it's not just these grand philosophical ideas. It's about taking those tangible actions.
Exactly.
Even if they seem small.
Even if they seem small.
It's about building those habits of discipline and responsibility.
Precisely. And those habits, as Peterson points out, they can have a ripple effect.
Interesting.
Like when you start taking care of yourself, taking care of your surroundings, it can inspire others to do the same.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
It's about creating a positive feedback loop where, order begets more order.
It's like that broken windows theory, but in reverse.
That's a great way to put it.
Instead of disorder breeding more disorder, it's order creating more order.
I like that.
Spreading outwards.
Yeah, it's about the transformative potential of those small, seemingly insignificant actions.
Right.
They can be the catalysts for change, not just in our own lives, but in the world around us.
Peterson also talks about the importance of relationships.
Yes.
Finding people who want the best for you.
It's rule 3 in the book. Make friends with people who want the best for you.
And that's so important.
It is. We're social creatures,
Yeah.
The people we surround ourselves with, they have a huge impact on our lives.
Big time.
Peterson argues that we have a moral obligation to choose our friends wisely, to seek out those who will support our growth and, challenge us to be better.
It's about being around people who share our values, who are on a similar path of self-improvement, of finding meaning.
Exactly. It's not about finding people who will enable our bad habits.
Right.
Or validate our negative self-perception.
Yeah, no.
It's about surrounding ourselves with those who will push us to become the best versions of ourselves.
But what about those who are struggling?
Yeah.
Who maybe aren't on that path of growth yet?
Right.
Peterson doesn't advocate for, like, just abandoning them, does he?
No, he doesn't. He talks about offering a helping hand.
Okay.
But also about setting boundaries.
Okay. How do you balance that?
Well, he uses this phrase, offer a genuine and cautious hand, but do not join it in the mire.
Oh, I like that.
It's about recognizing that we can't save everyone.
Right.
But we can offer support and guidance.
Yeah.
Without getting tangled up in their problems.
So it's about finding that balance between compassion
Yes.
and self-preservation.
Precisely. And it's a balance that takes wisdom and discernment.
Definitely.
We need to be able to assess a situation to determine whether our help is actually beneficial or if it's just enabling harmful behaviors.
And sometimes that means having those tough conversations.
Oh, yeah.
Being honest even when it's hard.
Absolutely. Truth-telling to ourselves and to others.
Yeah.
It's a recurring theme in Peterson's work.
It is.
It's about living in accordance with reality, even when it's uncomfortable. It's about having the courage to face our flaws.
Right.
To acknowledge the challenges in our lives.
Yeah.
And to speak honestly about what we see.
But how do we do that in a way that's constructive?
Right. Yeah.
That doesn't just create conflict or hurt feelings.
That's the art of communication,
Right.
right? Peterson talks about being truthful, but also tactful and compassionate.
Okay.
It's about finding the right words, the right time, the right way to communicate the truth in a way that's both honest and helpful.
So it's not about just like blurting out whatever comes to mind.
No, not at all.
It's about being mindful of the impact our words have on others.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between truth and kindness.
Right.
And that takes a deep understanding of human nature and how relationships work.
This is all starting to sound like a lot of work.
It is. There's no doubt about it. But Peterson argues that it's worth it.
Okay.
He believes that living a truthful life, a life that's aligned with reality and our deepest values, that's ultimately the path to meaning and fulfillment.
It's about becoming the best version of ourselves.
Yeah.
Even if it takes effort and maybe even some discomfort along the way.
Exactly. And it's a journey that requires both courage and compassion.
I like that.
And remember, you don't have to do it alone.
Right.
Surrounding yourself with the right people. Those who want the best for you can make all the difference.
This has been such a rich conversation so far.
Yeah.
I'm really starting to get like the interconnectedness of all these ideas.
Yeah, good.
But I'm curious to hear more about how Peterson like brings it all together.
Well, one of the key concepts he keeps coming back to is this idea of balance.
Balance, okay.
And it connects back to that interplay of order and chaos we talked about.
Right, the child's playroom.
Exactly. He says that too much order leads to stagnation.
Okay.
While too much chaos, results in disintegration.
That makes sense.
It's about finding that sweet spot, that dynamic tension where creativity and growth can flourish.
So it's not about eliminating chaos altogether. It's about learning to dance with it.
Beautifully put. And that dance, it takes a certain kind of courage.
Yeah.
A willingness to embrace uncertainty and to step outside of our comfort zones.
Right.
It's about being open to new experiences, new ideas, new ways of being in the world.
And that brings us back to Peterson's advice to aim at paradise, right?
Yes, it's that North Star, that beacon of meaning.
I love that.
That gives our actions purpose and direction. It's about striving for something greater than ourselves.
Right.
Something that inspires us to grow and become better.
But it's not just about some abstract ideal, right? He also stresses the importance of taking practical action, of concentrating on today.
He does, and that's where his 12 rules come in.
Okay.
They're not just philosophical musings. They're concrete, actionable steps we can take to improve our lives, to create more order in our own little corner of the world, and to move closer to that vision of paradise.
It's about those small daily practices, those habits of discipline and responsibility that ultimately lead to big changes over time.
It's about making our bed, cleaning our room, standing up straight with our shoulders back.
It's about all those things, really.
It really is. It's about telling the truth, being grateful for what we have, pursuing what's meaningful, not just what's expedient.
That's powerful.
It's about treating ourselves and others with respect, even when it's hard.
It really does sound like a recipe for a good life.
It does. And the beauty of it is it's accessible to anyone.
Right.
You don't need, special talents or privileges to implement these rules. It's about making a conscious choice, a commitment to living a more meaningful and purposeful life.
That's a great point. It's not about becoming a Jordan Peterson disciple.
No, not at all.
It's about taking what resonates with you and using it to create a life that feels authentic and fulfilling.
Exactly. And that's a process of continuous learning and growth.
Yeah.
It's about being open to new ideas, experimenting with different approaches, and ultimately finding what works best for you.
This has been such an insightful conversation.
It has.
I feel like I have a much deeper understanding of Peterson's work now.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
And for our listener, I hope you're finding these ideas as thought-provoking as I am. We've got just a little more time left in this deep dive.
Okay.
So let's continue exploring some of the practical applications of these ideas. It's interesting how Peterson brings together all these seemingly different ideas, like ancient hierarchies, biblical stories, everyday habits.
That's quite a mix.
It's like this really compelling tapestry of thought.
He's really good at connecting those dots, And it's those connections that make his work so insightful.
Yeah. It's not just about understanding each concept on its own. It's about seeing how they all fit together, how they relate to each other.
Exactly, they inform each other.
So what are some of the key takeaways that have really stuck with you from Peterson's work?
Let me think.
What do you think is most relevant for, someone like our listener who's on that journey of self-improvement, searching for that deeper meaning?
Well, I think one of the most powerful things he says is that personal transformation, it's a process.
Okay.
It's not like a destination you arrive at,
Right. It's a journey.
It's about embracing that journey of continuous learning and growth.
So it's about those small, consistent efforts.
Yes.
Like we were talking about before, those daily practices that over time can lead to big changes.
They really can.
And that ties into another key takeaway, right? The importance of taking responsibility for your own life.
Peterson's really big on that.
Yeah, he is.
He believes we have this moral obligation to ourselves and to the world to make the most of our lives.
To contribute
something positive, to leave things better than we found them.
And he doesn't sugarcoat it either.
No, not at all.
He's very clear that this requires effort.
Effort, discipline, a willingness to face discomfort.
Yeah, to be uncomfortable.
There's no easy path to self-improvement.
Right.
Or to finding meaning.
It's about embracing the challenges.
Yes, learning from our mistakes.
Pushing ourselves to grow.
And this is the key. Peterson also believes that this is a journey worth taking.
Okay.
He sees it as the path to a richer, more fulfilling life. A life filled with purpose and meaning.
And it all starts with that decision.
Right.
That commitment to becoming a better version of yourself.
Exactly. It's about choosing to aim at paradise.
Yes.
To set that intention. And then to back it up with action.
With those daily practices.
With those daily practices that will move you closer to that vision.
It's about making your bed.
Cleaning your room. Telling the truth.
Surrounding yourself with people who want the best for you.
It's all those seemingly small things that when you do them consistently, they have a huge impact.
It's about creating order in your own life.
Starting with your own little corner of the world.
And maybe that order will spread.
Maybe. Who knows?
Inspire others to do the same.
That's a beautiful thought.
So for our listener out there who's been with us on this deep dive into Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life.
A great book.
We hope you found this exploration, insightful.
Absolutely.
Maybe even a little bit inspiring.
I hope so.
Remember, it's not about memorizing rules or becoming, a Peterson devotee.
No, not at all.
It's about taking those ideas that resonate with you and using them as tools for your own personal growth and finding meaning.
It's about asking yourself those tough questions.
Yeah.
Challenging your own assumptions. Creating a life that feels authentic and fulfilling.
And as Peterson would say, aim high.
Aim high. Concentrate on today.
Concentrate on today.
And remember, the journey is just as important as the destination.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep striving to become the best version of yourself.